at half-time in the game between Sunderland and Burnley. So that was 13 years ago today, and now 100 appearances for
Did he
Dan
score
Neil.
on that occasion?
No, it's just not as far as I'm aware. But it was a half-time kickabout on the Stadium of Light pitch. As I say, 13 years later, 21-year-old Dan Neil makes his 100th appearance tonight, and he is playing.
So we know that he's playing, and we know that Luke O'Nien isn't injured. Obviously, he might not be here for other reasons. So, yeah, it could be any of the others, really, Marco. I don't know who the most important players are, who you would least like it to be.
Probably Danny Bart tonight.
Yeah, I thought that as well when I was going
think
through the names.
He's the one who I think...
well, we're back. A bit of buffering, but my Windows decided to do some updates while I was doing this stream. That's why it was struggling, but we're finished now. We should be all good to go.
I think, I thought at the time, he's the only player really who could head that ball in a Sunderland shirt, and they didn't mark him, which was bizarre. Birmingham will be pulling the hair out about that, but I think he's probably the one who we really need tonight. So fingers crossed it's not him.
Well, we'll have team news for you in just around about half an hour's time, so not too long to wait to find out what that starting 11 will be. I mean, there'll be lots of eyes tonight, Barnsley, not ours unfortunately, because we can't really see them from where we are, but lots of eyes will be on Huddersfield's fans, won't they? Hopefully no missiles will be hoyed. I mean, they don't have any particular reputation for it, so I'm not accusing them. I'm just saying because it happened against Birmingham and it's happened previously, it's going to be something that people are going to be a little bit tense about, particularly those people in the lower part of the North Stand.
I've had a long conversation this evening when I arrived here with the safety officer, or one of the safety officers. I mean, it was a long, protracted conversation about what can they do to stop this happening, and it's very, very difficult. The Nets conversation has come up.
As I said before,
it's not seen as a viable solution to put a horizontal net across the front of the stand for a variety of reasons. Sheffield United have done that. They're taking theirs down because it apparently gets full of clutter and muck, and it's very difficult to clean. It's not very practical, and it doesn't actually stop because of the trajectory of the stand. It doesn't stop stuff coming down, so that's been knocked on the head. Now a vertical net, obviously one that comes from the roof of the stand down to the front, that has been knocked on the head as well, so to speak, because of the difficulties of maintaining it. It needs 3 or 4 abseilers every so often to clean it, and the actual mechanisms of attaching it and getting it fixed are seen as I think there's just too much to do. The best solution appears to be, and this is probably then down to individual clubs and the cost effectiveness of it, the best solution, the one solution that does seem to solve problems, is if the visiting teams bring their own stewards. Psychologically or whatever, it seems to be that away fans, if they have their own stewards around them, the behaviour seems to be better for whatever reason. Now, the other solution is, you've got the pyrotechnic dogs, but that hasn't stopped flares getting in, and pyrotechnics. On Saturday, the flare, or the whatever it was that was thrown, was tucked in the bottom of the trouser leg of a tracksuit bottom of the person who threw it. These things will get in, and there was also issues with coins being thrown. Now, whatever you do, you're still going to get people. There'll be some mindless idiot who will still chuck something, and whatever you put up doesn't necessarily stop that. But the issue here is specifically you've got the fans above the home fans. Now the other solution, of course, is to move the away fans, but they feel that's not an option because there'd be too much opposition to fans wherever you move the away fans to, having to move from their own seats to somewhere else in the stadium. So there's no ideal solution, and I know they're racking their brains in an attempt to try and find a way of stopping and mitigating. Now the ratio of stewards per fan is quite low actually. It's about 1 steward to 250 fans at the moment, away fans, which is a ridiculously low number of stewards because they haven't got the numbers.
So they need more.
So they need, and I know the club are actively trying to employ more stewards.
So that's not because they don't want to employ them; there just aren't stewards available.
They're just not available.
Right.
So this is these are national recommended numbers.
So we're talking about
ideally,
the flares getting
it should
thrown
be,
on
I
and stuff
think,
getting
1
thrown
steward
from
to 60
the away
fans.
fans.
That is the
so that would help as well. If there are more
that would
people
help
keeping an eye
as
on.
well.
Okay.
Now on top of that is the what they do before every game is basically get a dossier on the away fans. It's very, very rigorously done. It's done by the police and the clubs, and so they have an idea of what to expect from certain clubs. Now they were warned that Birmingham, there was a minority that could have caused a problem tonight. They don't believe there's any issues at all with Huddersfield Town. In fact, they've been told that if Huddersfield go 2-0 down, the fans will leave.
Right.
So, and that's the extent to which they do the sort of research on the opposition. But as I say, every club is looked at rigorously in terms of the due diligence, if you like, on the away support.
Yes.
You can't legislate for someone who's decided to. And the other issue, you see, you've got under 16s have to have parental permission to be searched. But some clubs are breaking rules, and there have been clubs bringing 14-year-olds on their own, have been travelling, and they're not allowed to be searched.
Right, so they can bring stuff in as well.
So,
there are lots of ways.
If you get a parent who doesn't want the child searched,
again that's another way.
So it's another way. So you can see the problems that are mounting up in terms of trying to stop. Yes. And look, they're not pretending that Sunderland's fans are any better.
Yeah.
No. Sunderland at Burnley this season, a few weeks ago, there were flares thrown on the pitch.
It's not helpful, I guess, to categorise.
There was a Newcastle fan last night on the programme who said Aston Villa at the weekend. Yeah. So it's not specific. It's every club has got the issue, and they're all trying to find a way.
It's the better supporting clubs that are more likely to have idiots because there are more people.
You've got fans above the home fans.
That's
now, that
the
does
issue.
happen to a couple of other clubs, but it's not the norm, if you like.
Yeah. Well, there'll be people listening now that will be on their way to the game this evening. Plenty of them will have seats in the North Stand, so do get in touch if you get a moment. You can call 0800 234 6565 or send us a WhatsApp 08000 321 333. I'd be interested to know as well what people think about the idea of moving the away fans. It's been much discussed. The club are worried that it would upset too many people if that happened, Marco, but I wonder if that's just the price that they have to pay for people's safety. So maybe it would irritate people.
What's more important,
who would
moving
soon
the fans
get
or people's safety before someone gets killed?
And so move the fans back to where they were or somewhere else in the lower tier, and then that is the problem solved, albeit with some people perhaps not very happy about it.
Well, I've spoken. Sorry, Mark. I've spoken to one or two in the North Stand, and they're not particularly happy about the notion of the away fans moving, because they've grown to have a sort of network of friends that they've met from sitting in the North Stand and sit around them now, and they don't want to break that sort of network up. The issue for them is the vulnerability they feel sitting underneath the fans. They want something done.
Well, they wouldn't be broken up, would they? Unless the fans were moved into where they were.
Well,
why else would they be moved?
Well, because they would have to be moved into we've had this before with the Premier Conference. As soon as you start moving people, it disintegrates. People move in individual seats elsewhere around the stadium. So what those fans want in the North Stand.
Do you think we can get promoted to Stephen Grimes? So I don't think we will this season. I think we'll miss out on the playoffs.
I'm not sure netting can work. I mean, I've seen
unless we win every single game remaining and results go our way, but I can't see that happening, to be honest with you.
Has holes in it. That's what net is. So things will still get through.
I think last night's telltale
and that's where they've cited the German, to be honest with you, situation, and they looked at that, and they've been to Sheffield United. They've been to Sheffield United and looked at them, and as I say, Sheffield United have taken theirs down.
I think as well, you sometimes you're trying to please everybody, but it's like you said. So you're saying some people are forming attachments with friends, and then you're saying, but then they get dissipated. Well, if they've formed an attachment, just
what do you think, Steve? Do you think we'll go up? Do you think they can get promoted? Have they got enough?
And find an area where you can sit together again. There surely must be some areas where they can still sit together.
I'm sure that's right, but you can see from their point of view what they're saying is they're worried. The fear for them is that that won't happen. So not. This is the problem that.
But it's maybe just something that they will have to.
I think there's a bigger. I think the bigger problem is how close we were to quite a big incident on Saturday, really, weren't we? You know, that the worst case scenario, really.
And they are, and look, they are mindful of that. I mean,
it's definitely not guaranteed next season.
I'm not going to name him, but he said, look,
we all thought we'd get promoted straight away from League One at 4 years, 4 seasons.
In fact, you know, they know that the safety
need to spend right.
They are both.
They need to get in depth.
Very, very. I mean, they just don't know what to do. I mean, they're tearing their hair out trying to find a solution to this.
Hopefully there will be nothing else tonight.
Got a lot of work to do.
We would welcome people's views on this for a short-term and a long-term
solution. They've got
plenty
no
to come
to spend
on tonight's opponents, Huddersfield, in the not-too-distant future. Barnsley, very quick word about what Sunderland can expect tonight. You can't put your microphone down yet. And one more answer. You can keep it brief about Sunderland's opposition tonight, because I think it's probably one of the most cliched phrases in football is you know what you'll get with a Neil Warnock side, isn't it?
Yeah, 11. Cheers.
Thanks, Barnsley, for that.
Look, from what Tony Mowbray said yesterday, he said they will. The way that Neil Warnock sets the team up, it's man marking. We touched on it last night. He said, and that's why he didn't want to give away who the injured player is, because he says if Neil Warnock gets wind of who it is, immediately he knows that that's something he can work on. And he says they will follow you. Each player will be followed rigorously across the pitch, around the pitch. And he says they're not a possession-based football team. Against Blackburn the other week, it ended 2-2, but within 20 minutes, Huddersfield were 2-0 up. Huddersfield had 20% possession on the night, and there are other games. 78% possession, I think, another game. They've beaten.
Yeah, Stephen, absolutely. We've had the best
away.
season.
They've beaten Millwall away.
We've had 60% of the squad out. It's been absolutely superb. So who knows what we could have done
Neil Warnock,
if Stewart was still with us.
And no mugs. I mean, they lost at Swansea on.
It's going to be interesting.
That's an aberration.
It's going to be very, very interesting. Put it this way, it's not long till the end of the season.
They drew at home with Norwich.
Let's see what KLD can do. What his ambitions are. Does he want us to get it? Does he want us to get us promoted, or is he happy with us just staying in the Championship for a few more years?
Sunderland are going to get work tonight. You know, in sense of they really do have to. Be at the races.
We will talk a lot more about the opposition this evening between now and kick-off, which is at 7:45. Thank you for now, Barnsley. I will let you go. If you want to have your say and have a chat to Marco, 0800 234 6565 is the number to dial, and you can message us via WhatsApp 08000 321 333. Start your message BBC, as you must do if you text us on 81333, and we'll talk Newcastle with Razor and Ando next.
No, we won't.
That's significant, you know.
Because we're not interested in the man.
Fans Player of the Month for March, and Isak got 20.
No, not bothered.
Will be as appalled as we are, feeling quite clear.
People who think it's, you know.
To look at the safety certificate, Billy says, "I'm sure that public safety." It's just a tiny bit more. He might have an opinion on this as well. I just want to read out some of the messages that we've received on this ongoing issue of fans here at the Stadium of Light, away fans throwing pyrotechnics in particular down to where the home fans
are seated beneath them.
There's lots of people, Marco, as you might expect, are again getting in touch about this. David says the own stewards solution. Barnsley talked about clubs maybe bringing their own stewards, and that might help. It won't work for high-profile end-of-season games when the tensions are high. The only solution is to move the away fans back to the lower bowl where they were originally, and that's how the stadium was designed. The lack of stewards and police in the North Stand's ridiculous, and Sunderland thinks David won't pay for more police. It's time for the council to look at the safety certificate. Billy says, "I'm sure that public safety is more important than upsetting a few fans. Sunderland needs to get this sorted."
But if the fans were bothered
his opinion.
About safety,
and Julie, who is in Newbiggin by the Sea, says
there's
a very simple solution to these incidents. The Football League gets involved. The teams responsible are deducted points, perpetrators named and shamed, and that team's fans are banned the next time the two clubs play. Easy. But that common sense solution won't happen, will it? Says Julie.
I agree with the first messages there. I think the only solution is to move the fans down. I don't see what the issue is with that.
That's the only way they can do it.
There's going to be some people a little bit like they've been moved or had options taken away from them. But I think in the interest of, as you said there, safety certificates and public health, then can you imagine sitting in that stand tonight? You will spend half your time looking over your shoulder. I mean, you'll come away with a twitch. I mean, it's not good, is it? You know, to think that can happen. Look, as far as points deductions, as I said last night,
just
every club has
said
them,
all the
including
time.
our own club. You know, have these people who think it's, you know, a bright thing to do, and you know, it could get silly, couldn't it? You could have, you know, imposters going to games to throw. You know, that isn't a solution, I don't think.
Okay.
You just got to make it safer, and if people throw the flare, that, you know, usually they throw it on the pitch. It seems that they can only seem to hold them for so long because there's so much smoke. It
I don't know if anyone
people,
pulled it.
So
Mowbray seemed pissed off with Mishu in his post-match press conference.
It's just bizarre where we
saying the scans show no damage, and as far as the next match,
okay.
if he doesn't train,
Ian,
he doesn't play.
Fair
Point, I'd say. Yeah.
Good evening.
Good evening, Simon.
Have you got any views before you talk about the game tonight on what should happen to try and prevent this ongoing issue continuing?
The programme isn't long enough for my views towards the way fans at Sunderland. Listen, I'll tell you, Simon, I'm a very honourable position. I'm at the stadium now. I've been here for half an hour already. I've got corporate facilities here. I tell you now, the club has decided for the foreseeable future that the fans will remain up on top. The club have made their feelings quite clear on that, and no one can argue with what the club decided. As a member of the BLC, as part of the BLC, I'm the chairman of the Gates Advanced Sunderland Supporters Club. We're asking the club, asking everybody to get involved for a solution for this. The basic solution is to move the fans. That isn't easy because the club don't want to drop them to low ball because you have corporate boxes above them, and that causes issues again. The alternative is to put netting up there to stop the use of people throwing things over. I mean, that works. Blackpool have got that in place. I think that's a great option, but something has to be done. I mean, it's disgraceful the fact that young disabled kid was hit by a flare at the weekend. There are issues.
It's got to be done, hasn't it?
Again, it's above our pay level. But something has to be done between the council, between the club, between the police, between the stewards to resolve it, because it's spoiling great days out for people. And listen,
yes.
there are a lot of very, 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 very good Birmingham City fans who will be as appalled as we are. Like Sunderland as a football club, we've got issues with ourselves. So we can't decry other clubs because we've got the same issue here. Something has to be done about it.
So do you reckon, Pennywell Pundit, do you reckon Sunderland can make the playoffs? I've got a poll up there at the moment. 67% saying no, 33 saying yes.
To get a solution to it, because what's spoiling it is spoiling it for a lot of. As I said, there were 40,000 at the game on Saturday on the International Fans Day. 40,000, 39,990 might have been perfectly enjoying the day. We spoiled by a handful, and we can't let that handful do that. So,
well said, Ian.
And I've got one. What I want to tell you is, I'm so excited.
I think the way fans need to be moved, it will only happen until someone will get hurt, unfortunately. Put them back where they were originally. Absolutely, Stephen. It's not rocket science.
I was at the hotel.
You didn't think it was an away game, did you?
No,
if the fans care that much about the safety of the fans, they won't have a problem with it being moved, and the Sunderland fans being moved to where they were.
They all came out the
Simple.
Belfry at 10 o'clock to get their bus to go into Birmingham. The best thing was when we went for a drink on Saturday night, half the population was deliriously happy. I think they might have been Aston Villa fans, and half the population was very, very sad. They had been Birmingham fans. So for me, I was in my element on Saturday amongst all of our friendly fans down the middle of the area. So I missed the game, but I'm looking forward to tonight. I mean, a great performance and result on Saturday. We just need the same again tonight. The thing I'm most looking forward to is watching Neil Dantic on the touchline. It's going to be, listen, the guy's given us a lot of respect over the years, and I think he's got a soft spot for Sunderland Football Club, but he's such a passionate manager. He's going to get his team up for it. You know, it's not going to be pretty. I don't think we're going to see a pretty game of football tonight. What I want to see is our players, Diallo, Roberts, Jack Clark, have a field day against these, play football around them. They got beat by Swansea, who are football inside the same as we are. We've got to do the same again tonight. So I think in football terms, I think we can do them. It's just a case of making sure that in the aggression terms, because they're a very physical side, that we stand up for that. And that's going to be down to the back three. I believe we play back three tonight. I think we played Trey Hume, Danny Barton, Luke O'Nien as a back three, because we've lost Sturgeon, obviously. So I think we play three at the back and put four across midfield and leaving three up front.
I think we missed Dennis Serkin, mind. We've definitely missed Dennis Serkin.
Is being able to watch Mr. Warnock shake hands with Tony Mowbray at the end of the game and say, thanks, Tony, give us a good game, you're a better side.
That would be nice, and yeah, it's going to be you know that he'll have every base covered. They will use every trick in the book, every advantage that they can gain. They will be in the ear of the officials, because that's what they do, and they do it well, and it's valid. There's nothing wrong with it.
He's an absolute master at winding officials and players and the opposition players up. He's a master at it. We've got to rise above it tonight and play football, and if we do, I think we're going to be absolutely fine.
Yeah, I think
I certainly didn't know that was a thing.
I just think going man to man, it isn't easy over a full-size pitch. You do it. Sometimes we used to do it in training on a 40-yard pitch, and it's hard. You do that over a big pitch, especially when you've got the likes of Diallo and Clark and Roberts. The number of times that they go past their man is ridiculous.
Yep.
So, they only have to do that once, and then what happens then? Do they just stroll all the way through because all the other players are man marking the other players? It will break down if we play to get our good players on the ball doing what they're good at.
Ian.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just interrupting Marco because we've got some team news. Ian, you can stay on the line if you like and just give
what
us
you're listening to is just a pre-recording of the Total Sports Show from BBC Newcastle.
Well, it's going to be an
and those who have not heard it,
tonight.
catching up on some chat and banter and what the fans think.
Tony Mowbray wants to take the game to Huddersfield.
We've been listening to Nick Barnes, Gary Bennett and Marco
Gabbiadini. Ian, you're probably right. I think it probably will be a three. Hume, O'Nien and Bart with Gooch and Clark as your two wing-backs. Neil, Pritchard, Roberts, Clark and Gelhardt makes up the rest of the team. Bass, Liadji, Ekwa, Barr, Anderson, Ellis Taylor and Tom Watson's on the bench as well tonight.
So a team there, Ian, that looks like it would certainly be, as you would expect with this Sunderland side, I guess, take the game to the opposition.
Yeah. Well, Nick, let's hope tonight Liadji gets a chance to get on the pitch and have some game time. The kids pulling up trees in training, he apparently is as fast as a gazelle. So let's get him into a game, give him more than 2 or 3 minutes, give him 15, 20 minutes. Let's hope when the third goal goes in, so he drops the range and says, look, get yourself on, son, and have a bit of fun for the last 10 minutes. Yeah,
well, I know he wants them to get game time, still being, at the moment, judged by the results.
Unless there's certain Ballard, Evans, Stewart, Sims, Elberton, all them are first-team players.
What if they do find
we are
themselves in the
without
playoffs tonight?
It's massive, anyone. It's absolutely huge.
Weekend at West Bromwich Albion. I mean, probably slender again.
It's been amazing that we've actually...
Thank you.
Where we are.
Yes, he is, yeah.
Yes. I think the two of them, they could be key players tonight.
Okay. Thank you very much indeed, Ian, for coming on this evening. Your thoughts then, now that you know the team. No Mishu, he was the injured man, so he doesn't play this evening. So what do you make of that team? Will it be enough to beat Huddersfield here at the Stadium of Light this evening? 0800 234 6565 is the number to dial. We would love to hear from you on the programme tonight. If you do get a chance to call us, perhaps you're just pulling up outside the ground ahead of tonight's game, give us a quick call and have your say. We'll come back to talking Newcastle again shortly, but we're going to just do what we always do ahead of any game, be it a midweek match or a weekend one, and just take a closer look at the opposition from somebody who can cast an expert eye over it. And Matty Glennon, former Huddersfield and indeed Carlisle United goalkeeper, has joined us now. Hello, Matty.
Yep, amongst many others.
Many others. I thought they were the highlights.
We ain't got enough time till kick-off, but yes.
They were the two highlights.
We'll get some more Sunderland.
When I was watching the Man U game...
Don't want to hear the Geordies, do we?
I think a lot of people like you, Andrew, often in situations like this, do feel that there is something else going on, there's something under... I think it probably is just... a little bit of paranoia, isn't it? I think sometimes it's easy.
Is it because you're getting nervous, Andrew?
And Ando still taking your calls beyond the news, but it is news time now at 7:01.
Well, I can see you skip that.
Of a teenage and 2 people arrested.
News.
Well, one change for Sunderland. That's Mishu as the missing player. O'Nien comes in.
What you're listening to is a rerun
Patterson
of the
Bart, O'Nien, Gooch, Neil,
Total Sports Show.
Clark, Roberts, Ahmad and Gelhardt
General Banter
returns to the starting lineup as well this evening. The bench is Bass, Liadji, Ekwa, Barr, Anderson, Taylor and Tom Watson on the bench too, and Huddersfield make 2 changes. It looks like they might revert to a 4-4-2.
Thank you, Barnsley. What do you make of that Sunderland team? Will it have enough to defeat Huddersfield, who are fighting at the wrong end of the championship table as the players just jog out of the tunnel for their warm-up ahead of the match? We'd love to hear from you this evening. We kick off at 7:45. You won't miss a kick. Benno will be joining Barnsley to provide full match commentary this evening. We have also been talking about the ongoing issue of away supporters and missiles being hurled from the upper tier. A lot of people feel very passionately about this. Plenty of people getting in touch with us this evening. Lots saying that Sunderland should just really bite the bullet and move those away fans back into the lower bowl here at the Stadium of Light. But we welcome all views on this. We have been talking Newcastle as well. We've been talking about the should Matt Targett come in for Dan Burn issue ahead of the game against Spurs at the weekend. We've had Andrew on as well, talking about the way that VAR
75% think Sunderland will not make the playoffs.
Some of the big teams, the so-called big teams in the Premier League, and some teams.
Look at tonight's fixtures. Got Blackburn against Coventry, Queen's Park Rangers, Norwich, Swansea,
so what do you think of what he
Watford
had to
against
say?
Cardiff, Middlesbrough against Hull,
number
Reading
0800
against
234 65 at 65. The number to send a WhatsApp 08000 321 333. Start your message with the letters BBC, and you can also text 81333. Again, starting your message with the letters BBC.
Total Sport. BBC Radio Newcastle.
Throughout the course of the evening, we will keep you up to date in terms of the non-league football, which is most of interest this evening. We'll be live at the International Stadium very shortly to preview a match for Gateshead, which could secure their survival in the National League this season. Dunstan in action too, and we'll keep you up to date with what's happening at the snooker as well. That local derby between Elliot Slessor from Gateshead and Gary Wilson from Wallsend, that will resume, or is resuming around about now, that evening session with Wilson in a healthy lead at half-time in the football tonight. We'll keep you up to date on that. Just want to read a few of these messages out that we are receiving, and as ever when VAR is mentioned, a lot of messages come in on that topic. This one, Sean says, I have continually said that VAR is not the issue, it's the people in charge of it. I think you've said that as well, Andrew, a few times. It's difficult not to be a conspiracy theorist when you see these ridiculous decisions continually favouring the same big six teams. And he's put big six in inverted commas. Football will always be about opinions, that's fine, but anyone who does not believe corruption is possible in football, take a look at the goings-on in Italy over the years, says Sean.
Very true, yeah. That's a fair point. I mean,
actually, quite recently, it isn't like a historic thing. It's it isn't that long ago.
Yeah, that's true as well. You know, you're right in what you say, Marco. It's not that long ago. But I don't know whether I buy into the conspiracy thing or not.
Well, let me read a couple more messages. Lee and Shields, can anyone explain if it's just a conspiracy why these odd VAR decisions favour just the old big six clubs? In my opinion, it's deliberate bias to favour them. And this one's from Kevin, who's a Hibs fan. He says, all right, lads, Andrew wants to get himself up to Scotland. It's not unconscious bias there, it's conscious bias, says Kevin, the Hibs fan. I think I know which teams he maybe thinks have a bit of bias towards them. I don't know about you.
Well, yeah. It's look, it's. I don't think it's ever going to go away. I mean,
I feel like it could make a break for SFC this season if transfer don't go right.
You know, people see it
right way,
don't they?
Get the right players in, and I feel the likes of Pritchard and Patterson will leave. You could be right, Stephen. And no guarantees on how Stewart will return from injury if he ever will.
What was it, the week before?
And the thing is, though,
had an identical,
you're going to be bullied if Stewart leaves.
Nothing was given whatsoever.
What's the point? He's a superb player, but what's the point if he's always injured?
Down to individual interpretation.
I feel like we need to go for it. Absolutely.
The messages coming in 81333 on text. Standard network rate supply. If you text us, start your message BBC, and you need to use those same three letters at the beginning of any message that you send on WhatsApp on 08000 321 333. A win for Gateshead over Dorking Wanderers tonight and will ensure their National League status. Now, Colin White is at the International Stadium and is probably going to throw at me an unlikely scenario concerning Torquay and their goal difference. But really, Colin, tonight could be the night. Should be the night.
It definitely could be the night. It should be the night. In some ways, it might not be that complicated in the end. I'll come on to the permutations in just a second.
I thought it was an absolute...
lost 3-0 here against Bromley on Saturday. That was their first defeat in 11 games.
I would prefer Iverson over Patterson. His distribution nearly cost us twice last night. He's decent, but the height half of our fancy about was over the top. Interesting point, Tony.
All of whom are on the bench. In Clum, Robbie Tinkler, Camille Conte and Adam Campbell. So they start again with Philip Marshall in goal. The three centre-halves are Robbie Tinkler, Louis Story and Ethan Pye. The wing-backs are Connor Panny and Stephen Wern. Ed Francis and Callum Whelan in the middle of midfield, with Camille Conte and Adam Campbell supporting Marcus Dinanga. And it's a very, very strong bench, which at certain times in the season we've not been able to say for Gateshead. But they've got James Montgomery, Owen Bailey, Dan Ward, Greg Ollie and Aaron Martin on the bench. Dorking have come here with just 3 substitutes on their bench, just a matchday squad of 14. They are, I know we're more interested in Gateshead than anything else, but they're a fascinating team, Dorking. They're on a decent run of their own. You know, they're down, they're level on points with Gateshead at the start of tonight's game. They've won of the last 5 of the last 6 games, but they were formed 23 years ago. They have had 12 promotions in 23 seasons. The man who founded them is a man called Mark White, who is still their owner. He is still their manager as well. He is quite the character. They are still part-time at the moment. This is their first season in National League, so they are desperate to stay here. They've got a massive social media presence. They've got a huge TikTok following. They've got a YouTube documentary series that follow them around as well. So they are a fascinating club. But Gateshead are all we're interested in tonight. Permutations-wise then, if Gateshead's result here tonight is better than Torquay's result against Chesterfield, then they are safe. Chesterfield are third. They're the best of the rest in this National League behind Wrexham and Notts County, who are just about untouchable. So unless Torquay pull off a real surprise at Chesterfield tonight, a Gateshead win here is enough to keep them safe. If both teams win, then we start looking at Aldershot against Wealdstone, but we'll worry about that later down the line if we have to. A win for Gateshead tonight, the worst case scenario is they end up 6 points clear with 2 games left. So a win tonight just about guarantees them safety, and it could do if other results go their way too.
Colin, thank you very much indeed. We will be back with Colin at half-time in the Sunderland game. We'll keep you up to date with latest scores throughout the course of the evening. We'll talk to Colin full-time as well, as you would expect. So, yes, keeping you up to date. And hopefully, yes, if Gateshead can secure their National League status for another year this evening, then we can really start to focus and build up to the FA Trophy final, which Gateshead are in. They're up against Halifax in that next month, and BBC Radio Newcastle will of course be there to cover that match. Dunstan, by the way, are up against Grimsby Borough in the East Division of the Northern Premier League this evening as well, and Paul Dixon's going to be there.
9 player for the season for me, Stephen. Yeah, a few people have said the same thing as well.
Half-time and
it's
at full-time
hearts
in the
and souls into
game.
the club, isn't
so we'll
it?
keep you up to date with everything that you need to know in terms of local football, as well as our featured match here tonight at the Stadium of Light. We've got Steve on the line now, who is a Newcastle fan. Hello, Steve.
Hey, lads. Everyone okay?
Hey, Steve.
Hello, Steve.
Players as robots.
Not interested in what you've got to say, mate.
It's the, you know, even if you, like you say, spray smart water on them, if they've already thrown the flare over the ledge, it's too late. It's what's happening below that's the issue. I think, Steve, I think that's the biggest, what everyone's worried about. I understand, yes, stopping the people, but you know, there's always another idiot coming along on the rank, isn't there? That's the problem.
Yeah, it worries me because of that reason and a few other reasons. I don't even remember one of my calls early part of last season. I mentioned that I thought hooliganism was starting to creep back into the British game, and it brings back bad memories for me in the 80s when we were deservedly banned. All English clubs were deservedly banned from European football. I thought we got banned a bit too late. I think it should have been a season or 2 earlier. But I can see it happening in this country again, where away fans will be getting banned from going to all grounds, Premiership, Championship, First Division, all the way down the leagues, because I do think it's creeping in more and more. You can hear a lot more vicious chants outside the ground, not so much in, because stewards do, if they hear anything like homophobic chants, racist chants, they do get stuck in. The stewards say you out. But as for getting patted down, and I've never been patted down once in the last couple of seasons. And
a few people have got in touch and said that, yeah.
A proper pat down, you can't, like what Nick was saying, ex-army, working security industry, a proper pat down, you do get the ankles. If you're trained to do it right, and if you're polite and courteous when you do it, the person you're patting down doesn't object if you do it, like I said, with courtesy and respect. So there should be a lot more pat downs. Look at the security ticket, the certificate. I deal with them quite often. And part of the training for them is, if something gets through or something happens on your watch, there is a possibility of corporate manslaughter if someone gets killed. So I think Sunderland wants to look a bit more at that and stop worrying about upsetting people or moving people around.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I agree with what that lad said before and what John said.
Anything else that you wanted to add as well, Steve?
What? Sorry? That Maguire handball wasn't a handball. It should have been off. But if he'd given that away last night, get the penalty scored against him, I couldn't see him playing a game for Man City this season.
Why is that?
Well, he's not supposed to be top of the list for Ten Hag, is he? And there's rumours that he's going up for sale in the summer as well, isn't that? So,
well, I suppose it all comes down to who's available to him, and I mean, they're struggling for defenders at this moment in time. I think the amount of money that they paid for him as well.
What?
May have something to do with him playing as well.
Yeah, I'll leave it at that. I'll just say good luck to Sunderland and Gateshead tonight because I want the Derbies back.
Cheers, Steve.
Top man.
Thanks a lot, Steve. Thanks very much indeed for coming on this evening, and we're going to have time for one more chat before Barnsley and Ben will take you up to kick off here at the Stadium of Light, and that chat will be with Arthur, who is a Sunderland supporter.
How are you, John? All right?
I'm good, thanks, Arthur. Yeah, you?
Yeah, good man, Marco.
You sound full of it, Arthur.
Pardon? Good old Arthur.
You sound full of it.
Oh, I am, looking forward to tonight. Marco, just patience tonight, that's what we'll do, patience. Just play our little normal game, knock the ball about, and I think we'll win. But I know one way which will help us. Just get word to Warnock that Stan Turner is sitting on our bench and he'll not turn up.
Okay, sounds like you've got a story that I don't know about.
Well, I've read in in a book, and Kevin Ball's talking. Him and Stan Turner had a right go. When Stan Turner stuck the nut on him and apparently gave him a right kicking. Oh, they're not very good friends.
Right, okay.
Well, hopefully we won't have to resort on that tonight.
Sorry tale, yes.
I'll just butt in here after. I've got a funny feeling. Because I was chatting to Matty Glennon earlier from Huddersfield. Stan Turner was on Neil's coaching team at Middlesbrough.
There you are.
I don't know. Stan Turner, I doubt that.
That's what I was with Ronnie Jepson. Stan Turner were with Neil at Middlesbrough.
I cannot believe that, mate, because the things what was said about it when it was Kevin Ball, actually.
You don't go to Talkins and believe everything that you're told, do you?
No. I probably know more than them. Anyway, tonight, just be patient and play the football, and I think we'll beat them. And not comfortable. It'll be a hard game.
It will be a hard game, and as we know, we didn't beat them.
I think we'll beat them if we stick to our game plan and get young Ahmad on the ball, and he'll show them a trick or two.
Well, he's been the answer to a lot of questions this year, and let's hope he can continue it right to the very end, because there's a chance, isn't there? There's an outside chance if we win tonight. I think it really does start putting some pressure on the teams around us, and anything can happen in these last few games.
Yeah. But that's about it, Marco, John. And I'll phone you again next week when we win.
Cheers, Arthur. Thanks a lot, Arthur. Thanks for coming on this evening. I've been trying to do a quick bit of research on Stan Turner and Neil Warnock, and everything I can find seems to relate to huge animosity between the two of them. I'm not sure that they were at Middlesbrough together. There's an article from that time which basically quotes Neil Warnock as saying the two managers I really dislike are Stan Turner and Gary Megson, and what he wouldn't do to them if they were on fire. So I don't think that it's likely that they worked together, but maybe I'm wrong. But thank you very much indeed, Arthur. Anyway, enjoyed that contribution. Ando, thank you very much indeed. We will talk to you again tomorrow evening on the programme as usual. Marco, some final thoughts from you before we hand over to Barnsley and Benno about what you think will happen here at the Stadium of Light tonight.
Well, you know, our home form hasn't been scintillated
this
season,
awful,
but I just think the lads are in a bit of a groove. Confidence is on the up. It's just whether we can, you know, cope without, you know, with those players missing with the red card and the injuries as well, because the bench, you know, it's getting weaker and weaker as the weeks go by, unfortunately. But you know, I do feel confident in what the way that the lads are playing at the moment.
Marco, thank you very much indeed. We'll look forward to hearing your views on the show tomorrow night, no matter how things go this evening. Kick-off here then is just over 20 minutes away, and Barnsley and Benno will take you there next.
Join me for all the best in local music every Thursday and Saturday UK/go!
So the teams are out on the pitch for their warm-up this evening. Sunderland,
what you're listening to is just a little bit of banter from last night before the Huddersfield game. We know the result, but now we can look back what they're saying,
and we know that
see how right they were with the predictions and what could happen.
Is over the formation this evening, I think, for both teams. But the personnel for Sunderland: Patterson, Hume, Bart, O'Nien, Gooch, Neal, Pritchard, Clark, Roberts, Ahmad and Gelhardt. Marco Gabbiadini was referring to the bench. It's Bass, Liaggi, Ekwa, Barr, Anderson, Taylor and Watson. Now Huddersfield make 2 changes as well from the team that lost 1-0 at Swansea. So it's Thomas Vaklik in goal. Now they play the 3 at the back at Swansea. Tom Lees, Michael Hellick and Matty Pearson, and they're all in the side this evening. David Kasuma played as a wing-back, as did Jaheim Headley. But Neil Warnock has brought Josh Ruffles into the team tonight, and he's a left-back. So there's a feeling that Josh Ruffles might go left-back, and it may be a 4-4-2, because Jack Rudoni remains in the team, as does Brahima Diarra, but Neil Warnock's brought in the forward Josh Karoma to play with Danny Ward. So we will probably have to wait for kick-off, but Benno is beside me, the great master tactician. Have you any thoughts?
Attacking line-up, you've got to say, from Sunderland. I think they'll play 3 at the back. I think they'll play Jack Clark as a wing-back, Gooch as a wing-back, and Hume, O'Nien and Danny Bart, just to give us that little bit of security. As you say, you look in the middle of the park, yeah, you got Daniel, who hopefully will sit, but then you've got Pritchard, you've got Roberts, you've got Ahmad up there and Gildart.
Pritchard's former club, of course, and we knew at theirs he scored, as is so often the case. As I say about Huddersfield, I don't know. And Matty Glennon, when we chatted to him, I asked him earlier, he says, I'm not sure, I don't know. I mean, he was with me with Josh Ruffles, though, that he isn't out-and-out full-back, he's a left-back. I mean, so it sort of suggests, with the extra forward coming in, that it may well be a 4-4-2. What we do know, if everything is, you know, we've been told is correct, is they will be more than happy for Sunderland to have the ball.
Oh yeah, they will do. But you know, if you know what Neil Warnock's team's all about. You know, they'll come here, they'll be organised, and one thing
certainly
which they
were
will
organised.
Absolutely, is set pieces, because they know, and Neil Warnock knows, that Sunderland are not the biggest team, so they would have done set piece after set piece after set piece, and they're quite good at it. His teams are quite good at it, and again, what happens there is, if they don't win the first ball, they try to recycle and get the second ball, and we've got to make sure we pick them pieces up. We've got to make sure we win that individual battle.
Whether or not Stan Ternant used to work with Neil Warnock, Ronnie Jepson most definitely does, and he's with Neil at Huddersfield.
And Neil actually is also a qualified referee. So I don't know whether that brings anything to the game for him, but he is a qualified referee, and it's his second spell in charge of Huddersfield. He was with Huddersfield back in the early 90s when they actually won promotion from the then third division into the second division, and also went to Wembley in the Autoglass Trophy final. So his first spell at Huddersfield was successful, but that was a long time ago. But since his return here at the mid-February, he's turned things around. His first few games in charge, he
definitely has turned it around.
Birmingham, and they lost heavily to Burnley.
We always knew it was going to be. I don't understand some Sunderland fans who say we're going to have these three now.
Lost at West Bromwich Albion, but then has gone on a run with one defeat, and that was on the weekend at Swansea. And they've beaten Middlesbrough at home 4-2, Watford away 3-2, drawn at home with Blackburn 2-2, and they won 1-0 at Millwall. So he's doing something right at the moment.
Well, you know what Neil Warnock's all about. He's old school, isn't he? It's basically that's what he's very good, and we spoke about this at the weekend in regards of man management, and that's what he does. You know, he's very good at getting the best out of players. And as I said, he'll come here, they'll be well organised, and expect to be in a hard game. Anytime you come up against a Neil Warnock team, expect it not to be, shall we say, a nice game. You know, they'll try every trick in the book. That's what they'll do. They'll try to upset. Neil Warnock will say, right, what we've got to do, we've come into the stadium and they're going to be expecting 35,000 here tonight.
And there was 37,000, so you went far off there, Gary.
The supporters. That's what he do. So I won't be surprised if they take the time with corner kicks, with free kicks, with goal kicks, with throwing. He loves it.
Yeah, quite a character is Neil Warnock, 74 years old now, his second spell in charge. Right, Troy Hume played centre-back at the weekend, but more significantly, he scored his first Sunderland goal as well, and I spoke to the Northern Ireland international following the game.
Trey, finally you've got a goal to your name. It had to come. It's close to the end of the season, but you've got one.
Yeah, it's about time. You know, I've had chances over the weeks. I've had a good few. I had a good one against Hull, which was a good save, to be fair. But it's luckily I've just found myself lucky in the box, and it's just fell to me. And delighted to get my first goal.
And also, you've been playing the last couple of games as centre half, so another change for you.
Yeah, as you know, as Gaffer just wants me to play there, I'll play there. I'll fill in wherever I need to play. You know, I'll do a job for the team. So obviously we're short in that position at the minute, so I'm happy enough to play there for as long as I have to.
I mean, he's spoken glowingly of you this week in terms of
the poll
his doors are always open, and he's pleased if players go and see him.
Can Sunderland make the playoffs? 40% say yes, 60% say no.
Yeah, definitely. Whenever I wasn't playing, obviously you're not going to.
I think it's starting to
be happy. You want to play. Every player wants to play. So whenever he says the door's open, I'm more than happy to go and speak to him and see what I have to do to play. And you know, obviously I've got my chance, and hopefully I can just keep playing, play games, and enjoy it.
And it's been quite a season, hasn't it, for you?
Yeah, it's been good. You know, obviously getting in at January and basically playing every game since. It's been enjoyable, and obviously coming up now, it's a promotion push, if you want to call that. So it's getting down to the crucial end of the season, and I'm happy to be involved.
There's been a lot of talk over the last few weeks about the playoffs, and some people saying, well, maybe they're a little bit beyond it, but just too far away. But you keep chipping away. I mean, as we speak now, you're a point from the playoffs. It might change because of Blackburn playing, but it won't go away, will it?
No, you just, as the gaffer said, you just take every game at a time. You know, we have a game Tuesday, we focus on that and nothing else. Just keep going game by game, trying to pick up as many points as you can. And you know, if we're in the playoffs by the end of the season, then we're happy. But if not, it's still been a great season for us. You know, no one expected us to be pushing to the playoffs, so obviously being close to that's been a great season for everyone.
I mean, you've slipped in seamlessly, but I don't suppose it's been as easy as that, has it? Has it been quite tough?
Yeah, the first couple of games were tough. You know, I was in and out of the team just before January. You know, I've come in, I went out. The games were tough, but getting a run of games, I felt like I was getting my possession down. You know, I was getting used to the tempo, used to the games, and obviously I've just kicked on from there.
And presumably, because you're in the first team now, you're starting to make a name for yourself. That's had a knock-on for you internationally as well.
Yeah, definitely. You know, there's camps coming up here in July, I think, at the start of July, and obviously going there, I want to play. You know, it'll be good games against Kazakhstan and Denmark, I think. So obviously it'll be good to get games there going into pre-season coming back here.
And if you were to look back a year or when you first signed, can you imagine that you were going to be in this position now?
Maybe. Well, obviously whenever I signed in January, we were first in the League One, so obviously I was hoping we would get promoted to the Championship and then hopefully to get games there, but obviously it's just, you kind of take it game by game, you take it week by week and just see where it takes you.
Total Sport. On the station with Newcastle and Sunderland commentary exclusively live. BBC Radio Newcastle.
We'll hear from Tony Mowbray in just a second, but firstly, just a quick word, Benno, about Trey Hume and what you think of his performances. He's put himself first on the team sheet since he came back in, and now he's playing as a centre-back, and of course that was your position. What do you...
So there we go, that was the Huddersfield Town game. 17th of April. Let's have a listen to this one from Total Sport.
They could be going up, yes. And there was a defeat.
Heard any
of these afternoon, largely cloud-free skies, lots of blue sky.
Apparently declared. And at 6:05, quick check on the roads, starting on the 8th.
A side that played exceptionally well on the day. But you give us a ring tonight with your thoughts on 0800 234 6565.
Yes, we would love to hear from you. Give us a call on that number. Dom and Nathan are waiting to take your call right now. On tonight's show, we will look back at all the weekend's action with Ahmed Diallo once again proving to be the difference for Sunderland.
Still going, Ahmed, onto his left foot. He's trying to tee this off. Ahmed, what a beautiful finish.
A win over Huddersfield tomorrow would push the Black Cats back into those playoff positions. Is the dream of back-to-back promotions still alive, in your opinion? Give us a call tonight. Newcastle United remain in the top four despite that rather rough...
Yeah, what you're listening to is just reruns of the Total Sport show. Total Sport shows.
Are you confident that...
And if you want to ask any questions on the chat, feel free to do so.
So wrong on Saturday. They went a little better for the women's team yesterday.
Another corner, Newcastle header, and they've got goal number 6.
Yeah, busy weekend for Razor, back-to-back commentaries, but a good result for Newcastle United's women. Did you go to that game at St James's Park? If so, give us a call. Tell us about it. There was a win for Durham's cricketers to enjoy. We will reflect on everything that has happened over the last couple of days. We will pick a performance of the weekend winner, as well as something to hoy in the river. We will preview tomorrow's local derby at the World Snooker Championship. Give us a call if you want to have your say, and you can be a part between now and 8 o'clock of tonight's Total Sport.
Total Sport. BBC Radio Newcastle.
Let me give you the contact details one more time. We're getting new listeners all the time who need to know them. 0800 234 6565 is the phone number. If you prefer to send us a message, and I can see them already dropping into the inbox, you can WhatsApp us on 08000 321 333. Start your message with the letters BBC to ensure that we receive it. You can text us also on 81333. And again, yes, start your message with the letters BBC or tweet at BBC Newcastle using the Total Sport hashtag. As well as Ando and Marco. We have with us our Sunderland commentator Nick Barnes. Good evening, Barnesy.
Good evening.
And our Newcastle United commentator Matthew Raisbeck joins us too. Hello, Razor.
Hi, good evening.
You've had a busy old weekend, Razor, haven't you?
Yeah, Sunday, much better than Saturday.
Yes, one result far more pleasing than the other. We will come on to Newcastle United's women later, but we're going to start by talking about the men and what happened Saturday lunchtime. It's nearly a decade, actually, since Newcastle United have won at Villa Park, and Saturday lunchtime proved another difficult encounter, to say the least, for the Magpies.
Go on a break quickly, and Watkins is in, and Watkins hits the post. Isak in the area, goes for a shot at the angle. Good effort. And Martinez makes the first save of the match. McGinn on the rings him in the area. On the outs for 3.
I'm not sure who to go to first or whose comments to take on board first. Razor or Ando or Biker Dave. I might read Biker Dave's message out if that's all right. Villa, that
left back was
Aston Villa just blew them up. Generally, even in dual displays I've seen against Newcastle, Watkins went through and hit a cross onto his own.
We had flashes and moments.
That's his way, I guess. Eddie Howe, isn't it? And I mean, why do you think?
Let them settle. Brentford
just fast forward
probably could have been
go already at Dan Burn in this
the game. Call him out.
Well, it does, and it's only the second time you analyse back. A lot of it could be down. So we'll see what has only played once this season.
Solidity in there against Spurs.
Joe Linton were in mid 4 out of 5, Ando, but I would have Joe Linton.
However, we didn't want that to take our focus.
But I don't think anyone's told the players that. The Black Cats came from behind to do the double over Birmingham City.
Ahmad into the penalty area on the right.
Right, I think I've already heard that one. Let's have a listen. I think we need to listen to this one here.
I think our center's right there. We potentially might be able to go for the center, but they're just driving after us. I don't know.
Play BBC Radio Newcastle.
Followers, it's owners.
And I haven't. It's not something I've.
Thank you. We will move on to Newcastle United in 10-15 minutes time. The start of the show, always the latest news, talking points from our respective big clubs in the region. We heard a bit from Tony Mowbray last night, Nick, but we'll hear a bit more from him because you covered lots of good ground when you spoke to him yesterday morning. And one that I found interesting, you told me you were going to talk about this before you did to Tony Mowbray, and the differences in which direction Sunderland kick.
Well,
essentially,
I mean, it's pertinent at teams like Newcastle because there's a slope on the pitch at St James's Park. It used to be pertinent at Yeovil because there used to be a slope on the pitch there, and there are a couple of grounds. Barnet, their old ground as well, Underhill, had a big slope. That's not the case at Sunderland, but historically they have attacked the north end of the stadium in the second half, and a fan at a talk-in the other week said to me, look, perhaps this should be readdressed because of the home form. The results haven't been great. What was it, 6 wins out of 20? And he suggested that as the more vocal Sunderland fans are housed in the Roker end, perhaps it should be readdressed and Sunderland should attack the Roker end in the second half rather than the north stand, which ironically is what happened on Good Friday in the 4-4 draw with Hull City.
Maybe I don't toss the coin, to be honest, and I haven't. It's not something I've discussed with Danny. You know, which way we're going to kick if we win the toss. You know, it's maybe it is. You know, and again, historically, I don't know historically about which end historically has been good for the team to attack and not. But it's something as my tenure moves on that some of that can be looked at, I'm sure, but it's not something in my mind that's crossed my mind. Generally we focused on how we plan to play, how we're going to build up, how we're going to get into the final third, but and I think for this team the most important thing is that just about in every game, I know the Stoke game we have to take that out, but just about every game this team have competed home or away, won or lost or drawn football matches. I think they've competed extremely well in what is a notoriously really, really tough league with lots of heavily financed teams, lots of experienced teams.
Let's see what you're listening to is just the Total Sport podcasts. I think they've come just having a catch up with what's been discussed over the last few days.
You add the draws.
Feel free to put any comments in the chat as well.
As bad when you throw in another 6 or 7 or 8 draws, and the defeats isn't as harsh as you might think. 14, you know, you win 6, you lose 14. I don't think that's the case, and so. You know, it's football. Everybody, and I've said it's hard at the Stadium of Light where teams will come and try and quieten the crowd and waste time very early on in the games and play a lot of men behind the ball because they're so aware of
Mike, Early and Alan, hello mate, how are you doing? From what a Preston fan said, Iverson is horrible with his feet and distribution. It's not a good sign.
Place to play.
It can. We'll hear a bit more from Tony Mowbray in just a minute or two.
Not a good sign at all.
Which way you were kicking, and as captain, Did you have a routine if you won the toss?
Win the toss first. I think that would help.
Yes.
But also, you've got to take into consideration the climate as well. What happens if the wind, you want to sometimes, for your advantage, do you play with the wind in the first half or do you play against the wind in the first half?
But Sunderland religiously will always, if they win the toss, attack in the second half. They will always attack the north end.
If they win the toss. If they don't win the toss, what happens then?
As happened on Good Friday, Hull won the toss.
Matters which end you kick
whether
off
they
to
knew,
a load of bollocks.
Whether they
it's not as if it's uphill or downhill massively, is it?
Sunderland's tactic is to
play. If it's against the wind or whatnot, but I don't
to
think
the north stand in the second half. I don't know, but it was
a deep level of
research.
Type of
fans or what louder stands you're kicking off
to that extent these days. But I mean, it's interesting because over the years,
I don't think it really matters.
Very, very. You can probably count on one hand the number of times Sunderland haven't attack the north stand in the second half.
Yeah, because I think, and I have no statistics to base this theory on at all, I think most teams, if they win the toss, want the ball and want possession and get a minute or so. I know it's never as simple as that, but want to get a few touches on the ball as early as they possibly can. So I don't think many teams will choose which way to kick.
There again, at times, if you're a captain, you win the toss, sometimes they opt for the kick-off.
Well, that's what I mean. I think the vast majority do.
Rather than saying, right, I want to go that end.
But yeah.
So you got an option.
So that, I think, is a combination of those things is why Sunderland, you're right, always
someone else.
If the other team wins the toss, they want the ball. Sunderland win the toss, they want the direction.
But someone else pointed out as well, most of Sunderland's big goals over the last couple of decades have been scored at the north end of the stadium. G's against Manchester City, Zendon's against Tottenham, Carlos Edwards against Burnley. And, okay, you can cite then Jermaine Defoe scored against Newcastle at the Roker end. But, historically, the bit Andy Reid, West Ham, I mean, the bit, what we would say the big goals for Sunderland over the last 20 years have been scored at the north end of the stadium.
Mm-hmm.
But then you look at the form and and the fan was making a point is where you've got a raucous, you remember that night Everton put all their fans, when away fans were housed in the south stand, Everton's fans behind that goal clearly helped Everton win that FA Cup tie under Martin O'Neill. Now, the point the fans making is that the Sunderland fans, those that sing and make a lot of noise, are generally in the Roker end, and would it make more sense in the second half to attack that end?
I don't think it makes a
I understand it, that's why we're talking about it. That's why you asked Tony Mowbray about it. We'll see if we have one of those iconic goals added to the list in the game against Birmingham tomorrow. You asked Tony Mowbray about Birmingham as well. I mean, we're going to hear from one of our colleagues at BBC Radio WM later on, but you asked Tony Mowbray about them too.
Well, look, they're 17th in the Championship, suggests a struggling team. Perhaps that's not the case, and they're also in the final stages of a takeover at St Andrews.
A physical challenge, first and foremost, I think. Big Djukovic is playing up front, who I signed for Middlesbrough many years ago, but a fantastic lad, a fantastic human being, and big physical presence. They've got some young athletic players. Hall's been playing, who is super fast. I remember him in the game down at Birmingham running past Jack Clark like he was standing still and thinking, who is that? How fast was that kid? A lad called Hall. They've got their loan players. They've they're all right. They've got some athleticism. They've got Reda Kedra, who I had at Blackburn last season. Lightning fast, powerful, can score a goal. So they've got some speed and they've got some threats, and that's probably why they're on a 4-game unbeaten run and doing all right. And they'll come here and believe they've got a chance of getting another positive result. So we have to try and make life difficult for them. And as we said, we've got a target. If we can get a couple of 3 points next week, and it should make the last 10 days of the season pretty exciting.
That's the idea, and we'll come back to that comment about trying to make things exciting and playoff chasing and all that in a moment. That's Tony Mowbray talking about Birmingham, though, Gary. Sunderland did rotate a bit by playing Friday, Monday, made changes. There was no Patrick Roberts or Joe Gelhardt on Monday. I'm sort of going to ask you your own question then. Where is Tony Mowbray going to settle for a starting 11 tomorrow, do you think?
Well, he's got a competition for places, which is good. It's how he goes about the game. Does he bring 09 back in? Does he keep Sirkin in? Does he switch Gooch? Does he play as a wing back? Does he come back and play as a right back or a left back? You know, where does Ahmad play? Does he play on the right? Roberts, you know, who plays in the 10 role? Does he bring back Gelder? Clark, does he play as a wing back?
Gelhard played well yesterday, mind.
I love that I asked you a question and you responded, I think, with about 9 questions of your own. Yeah. But it illustrates the point.
Yeah, and I think the most important thing for Tony Mowbray and the players is that they've got 5 games left. They cannot go down.
Yep.
They're going to be relaxed. All you've got to go out there and say, whoever the starting 11 is, go and play. You're not under any pressure at all. Go and enjoy, go and express yourself. And if you do that, see where we end up.
Yeah. I would argue, though, there hasn't been any relegation pressure for quite a long time. I take your point about mathematically safe, but that's not been on anybody's mind.
No, it's not been on anybody's mind. But, you know, at the end of the day, it's good that you know that you're safe.
Yeah,
you know, at the end of the day, you think that, okay, we've achieved what we wanted to achieve. Now we can take the shackles off and go and express ourselves. Let's go and play the game. Let's go and be clever.
Another 4-4.
Yes. You know, well, you would take that. I mean, given that I know Sunderland want to make the playoffs, but given that, as you say, it's about going out enjoying it, you'd take another 5-4 old draws between now and the end of the season.
You know, was it Pete Sixsmith was on the programme last night and said, look, for all the, you know, we want to go for the playoffs and you know, want that push. There was something refreshing about coming away from a game that ended 4-4, 8 goals end to end. Some good football, some good goals in that game. Yes, and there was some lax defending, but on the whole, you know, that's what you go to football to be entertained. I mean, and you know, I'm hoping it will be a goal fest again. We don't want a 1-1 0-0.
Well, I think that's been one of the biggest advantages, or one of the biggest things which we've enjoyed this season, is that the type of football we've played. You know, it's been entertaining, even though we might not have got the result we needed or wanted or should have had. But we've come away and thinking, do you know what? They've had a goal. Maybe, you know, being a little bit critical, we could say at times we've tried to walk the ball into net. We don't try to pull that trigger.
Yeah, we do need to shoot a bit more from outside the area and stuff and have a go.
If we got 4-4 last time, or maybe last season or the season before, a lot of supporters would have come away and been disappointed. I'm thinking,
why are we conceding 4 goals in League One, basically?
We've thrown 2 points away.
Well, a few years ago, they'd have lost that game 5-4.
Hello!
You know, but they've come away.
To a team from the West Midlands.
They've come away from that, and, you know, we've said time and time again that we've picked up a lot of admirers this season. You know, people have watched Sunderland and thinking, do you know what? They're a good team. You know, they've looked forward to, especially when we're going away from home, they've looked forward to Sunderland turning up because, you know, the football, what they've played, you know, again on Bank Holiday Monday against Cardiff.
Upstairs, get your jammies on.
You know, at times.
Yeah?
No, it's just it got to the point on Monday, you know, for the first time, that their manager had to make 2 substitutions within half an hour.
Yeah. Because they couldn't cope. Yeah.
No, we don't see that very often. I'm telling you now, that doesn't really happen very much in games. And you know, for Sunderland to do that, like it was at times it was men against boys. Oh, they were, you know, and at the end of the day, it was 1-0, but you know, it could have been more. But saying that, in, you know, credit to him, second half, Cardiff came out and had a go.
I'll drag you back, Nick, to tomorrow's game and the selection options that Tony Mowbray has. I know Luke O'Nions have expected to be available. It's all sort of dependent on his partner giving birth. But would you bring it? Do you think you'll bring him back in?
I don't know. I think it's also a question mark now, because he went with a 3 at Cardiff. Whether he he's done that. Will he do that again? I mean, Birmingham played with a 4. I suspect he'll go back to his 4. If he goes back to the 4 with O'Nien's situation, Sirkin, does he deserve not to be starting after scoring the winner last week, playing well, back in the squad? I have a feeling he'll go back to Gooch at left back, Hume at right back, and Sirkin and Bart. That's just my instinct. I might be wrong, but I think Misha will come back in with Dan Neil. I think it'll be his favoured quartet up front, Gelhardt, with the 3, Clark, Ahmad and Roberts.
And what that does, and we'll hear one more bit from Tony Mowbray on something different in just a minute, but the last point on tomorrow's game, Gary, I'm not going to hold you to what you've said, Nick, but if you were right, someone like Pierre Ekwa, who's given an opportunity, plays well, the strength in depth is such that he's not necessarily guaranteed to play the following week.
Well, I don't think any of them. Well, when I say any of them, I think you can put your hat on maybe 3 or 4 players who are guaranteed to play. You know, and that's the likes of maybe Danny Bart, and obviously they've got the goalkeeper, Trey Hume will play, Dan Neil will play, you know, Jack Clark. So you can say 5 or 6 of them are guaranteed, and Ahmed, well, that's so about Ahmed as well. Yeah. So, but you guaranteed 6 of them at least will play, and the other 5 you can throw in a bag and just...
Slightly
see what comes out.
Changeable at the minute.
Yeah, absolutely. One more thing to mention, and that I know you spoke to Tony Mowbray about as well. International Fans Weekend, Barnesy.
Yes, fans from around the world here for that weekend, which started this afternoon. Fans from as far afield as Botswana, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, the States, Slovakia, Bulgaria, Italy. They're here. Events organised by the Sunderland Supporters Branch Liaison Council and the club, and they've been at the academy this afternoon. I gather Luke O'Nien came in just his pants. That's gone down really well and probably be the talking point of the afternoon. They've got a party tonight.
Whoa, hang on. Why?
Why? Because that's what Luke O'Nien does. They have a party tonight at the Fans Museum, and there are more events planned around tomorrow's match and for Sunday.
Still think we need more of an explanation for that. But anyway, here's Tony Mowbray on the International Fans Weekend.
I would never have any questions of the size of the football club. It is unbelievable. You know, I try and gauge it by the away support. That everywhere we go, it gets sold out. It's quite amazing, really. The people who follow the club with such passion, and all I try to do is connect with that passion and give them a football team that can make them proud on any given day, really, and that they don't come away disillusioned, win, lose or draw with their football team, because most football fans accept that you're going to lose some football matches over a season. It happens, you know. But as long as they see a team that's fighting and working hard and giving it their best shot, and I think the vast majority of the games this season, win, lose or draw, I think that's what the team have seen, or the supporters have seen, and of the team, and that's all I ever try to do in football management, really. And yet, because as I've said to them today out there, really, I had a bit of a chat with them after training today. You know, I'm not Pep Guardiola or Jurgen Klopp or Mikel Arteta. I am what I am, but I demand certain things of the team. I demand certain standards. You know, we aren't working with the players that they've got, of course, as well. But I've got huge respect for them, and what we need back is work ethic, desire, a willingness to try and improve, whether you're 30, 37 or 17, and keep moving forward as a group, and that's all we ask of them, and I hope that's seen and portrayed on the pitch with the performances of the team.
The French lads understand that.
Yeah, generally they do, I think, and if the lads do, if Isaac doesn't, I'm sure Pierre tells him that. But yeah, listen, you can see when you're talking to people whether they're engaged with their eyes, they're either listening or they're not listening, and the team listen. And I think, because I'm quite, as you generally feel, quite an emotional guy when I talk about something I care about and am passionate about, and I don't give them manager spiel. I'm not interested. I was a young footballer once. Manager spiel, or work hard, do well, you'll get in the team. I mean, what a load of crap. It's excuse the language there. It's they want to know about life. They want to know what makes people tick. They want to know what's going on in their heads and in their stomachs, why they're feeling anxious or why they can't wait to get out there, and that's what makes footballers tick, really. Passion, emotion, getting their hairs on the back of their neck, standing up to something to fight for and a cause to play for.
Yeah, we'll let him away with that one because it illustrates a point. And he does sound, Gary, just a final point on this before we move on. He sounds like a manager you would want to play for, doesn't he?
Yeah, you know, you can relate to him. You know, he's been in that changing room. He's been a player. He knows what it's all about, you know, and he can tell. You know, as he said, you know, he can look in a player's eyes and he can understand or know and where they're coming from and what the feeling's like. And, you know, you talk a lot about experience, you know, and we talk about, you know, players or ex-players and whatever, and you have that feeling, or you can judge, or you can understand, or you know when somebody's body language isn't right, something's up. You know, you can look at players in the changing rooms and you're thinking, are they up for it or not?
interesting hearing Jermaine Defoe last night talking about his going down the coaching path and saying how it's all about managing people. And we've had this conversation. You know, why become a manager? Because you become a social worker. You have to be everything.
Yeah. We've had that discussion plenty of times, and people think that it's just about coaching. It's not just about coaching.
Yeah. Well, lots of managers don't do a huge amount of coaching now because they have coaches to do the coaching and they delegate.
You know, but as Nick's just touched on there, you know, there's a lot more what goes on behind the scenes in regards of dealing with players' situations. You know, people, you know, from a supporter's point of view, they just see the player.
Yeah.
And they just see the player on the pitch. But they don't understand what's going on behind the scenes, behind the player. You know, the problems which they're going through. You know, and that's something sometimes a manager has to deal with.
Yes, it is a multifaceted job. One more thing I know you want to mention, Nick, very briefly.
Yeah, Sunday, the lasses are at home to Bristol City, 12:30.
Hello, I'm back. Daughter's just got in from school. I'm just sorting her out.
There are often a range of lunchtime-ish kickoffs at Epperton. We've had 11:30s and 12s, but 12:30 on Sunday. Durham are away at Charlton at 12 o'clock. Come and join in, have a chat with us. Thank you very much, Nick, by the way. Nick Barnes, our Sunderland commentator, will be back tomorrow afternoon, but between now and 8 o'clock, come and have a chat. 0800 234 6565 is the number to call, and we will get a cricket roundup in just a tick before we talk Newcastle.
Thanks for agreeing to meet with us. Now, in order to protect...
Working, now we come together. I've got nothing.
Received an apology for that second Brentford penalty decision.
I help him. You know, he's a young player. He's really committed to it.
After that deadline, clubs will still be... There's nothing worse in the world than that.
I won't get one of that. I'll just get a plastic one.
That day, we won 6 home games out of 20. I was quite shocked by it, even though I go home and away. I didn't realise it was as bad as that. So I just think that we need to really improve our home form. I don't know how we'll go about doing that, but, you know, it was used to
18 degrees. So all in all, this weekend contained large oceans
in Turkey. That's
65 is the number to call.
Total Sport. BBC Radio Newcastle.
We'll do the Grand National preview properly later on, Ando and Benno, but do you have already your selections made for tomorrow's big race?
I don't know what's running.
Horses.
Haha, very good.
They are. To be fair,
that does help, doesn't it?
To be fair, that is pretty much the extent of my knowledge as well. Go on then, Ando, you're the expert in these fields.
Oh, look, it's stick a pin in, isn't it, when it comes to the national? You need a little bit of luck. I'm going to back, I've backed Mr. Incredible and I've backed the Big Dog as well.
Big Dog?
They genuinely call nicknames or actual horses. I assume they're the genuine names of horses.
Yeah, they are, yeah.
Dom got me earlier because Dom was jokingly suggesting that something called Tesco's Lasagna might be running in the Grand National, and I just looked at him because I thought that could be the name of a racehorse. We'll get Chris Jones on, who knows a little bit more about these things than the two of us that are sitting in this studio. Anyway, later on, he'll be on about quarter
Yorkshire Buckham Marina with Jacob.
Newcastle United text messages.
Sunderland will finish 10th. Think we'll draw against West Brom and Watford, but win against Preston.
On the line.
That was shite yesterday afternoon, Lord Jacob, wasn't it?
This one in at the very top of the programme. So here we go. He says Villa will be tough if they're in good form, especially at home.
Terrible.
We can't afford the kind of slow start we've had in the past couple of games. My team would be Pope, Trippier, Sher, Botman, Burn, so that doesn't change. Bruno, Joelinton, Longstaff, Gordon, Wilson and Willock. I would have started in place of Burn, says Brian, but how seems
so far, out of 9 votes, we have cancel and make the playoffs. Yes, 33%, no 67.
There was no Isak in there.
To be quite honest with you,
interesting.
It's made a lot of decisions up for the Sunderland fans' minds.
Would have
that 1-1 draw
automatically just gone.
Huddersfield.
You know, because there's been so many questions about can they play together, could you play them together, and I think the second half last week proved most definitely that you could. I thought they were both excellent, and I thought it suited Isak far better in the second aspect. It's interesting.
Brian, who says, Brian here at work driving my Tees Flex bus around Teesside, making my passengers listen to a proper radio station. I don't know what they were listening to before, but thank you for the compliment, Brian. They've been brainwashed for 3 years now. He's talking about his passengers, and I'm loving it now. He says we will definitely finish third this season. Was
only Coop one last week. I think it was their first defeat in about 13. So
I don't know what's going to change this weekend, although saying that...
John?
How you doing, Colin? How you doing?
Middlesbrough aren't doing bad either, mine.
No, I know. And I should point out that if it was BBC Radio Tees they were listening to before, they are also a proper radio station. But
I can't believe Stoke City beat us by 5 goals and then they lost against Wigan at home. I don't understand this league at all.
Really Let's bring in John then, who's a Newcastle United fan. He joins us on the line. Hello, John.
How you doing, Colin? How you doing? I know you're right there, lads. Be inclined to go with a team. I think if we use our weeks, because I remember back to that first, he's been given an opportunity.
It gave us that little bit of...
To protect your anonymity.
Of the former Sunderland captain and centre-half Gary Bennett, and joining us live from Birmingham this evening from the Mailbox, which is the name of the BBC building in Birmingham, the former Newcastle United fullback John Anderson. I'm also delighted to welcome to the show the former Aston Villa striker Gary Thompson, who now works as a pundit for BBC Radio WM in the West Midlands. Good evening, Gary.
Good evening, how you doing?
I'm doing alright, thank you. How are you doing?
Fantastic. I'm really looking forward to tomorrow. I'm in a good place
because Unai Emery's doing a heck of a job. What has he changed? Is it possible to pinpoint what?
To be honest, any Sunderland fans on here that's going to call the radio station? Let's have a look.
This is a game, and he wasn't as clear.
At Brentford last.
Score a game quite nicely later on in the programme when Chris Jones is on, because that is we have a virtual £10 bet and we have to pick a game across the
get
weekend.
Some Sunderland fans' perspective on things.
Pick the winner of that game as well.
So, where are the Sunderland fans? Come on.
That may tempt somebody. We will see. We're going to do the Sunderland equivalent now. Well, in about 30 seconds time, we're going to hear from the Birmingham City low-down privacy, basically safe from relegation now.
Yeah, I mean, certainly the manager John Eustace won't be admitting that anytime soon until they're mathematically sure, but the run they're on in the last few weeks, 5 games unbeaten, it's given them that little bit of leverage, coupled with Reading's points deduction. So I think at this point they're reasonably confident that they could be looking ahead to Championship football again next season.
Yeah, and that's on the field. There's plenty going off, as it feels like there has been for quite a long time at Birmingham City. Lots going on off the field. For those who haven't followed the takeover saga from afar, where do things stand at the moment with regards to a potential sale of the club, if it's possible to summarise?
Well, it is to an extent. I mean, suffice to say that Wednesday is the most significant development so far, because the latest bid looks like it might come to fruition. Earlier in the season, there was a bid fronted by a local businessman called Paul Richardson with the support of former Barcelona striker Maxi Lopez, and they were involved in the day-to-day running of the club when they probably shouldn't have been. They've received penalties from the Football League in the course of the last week, including suspended bans from football and an actual ban from football for Matt Southall, who was previously involved in Charlton. That takeover fell through. I don't think they ever managed to come up with the money that they needed to do it. This new bid, we presume, because they haven't said this week which bid has been accepted and who the people are behind it. They've been operating under a veil of anonymity. But it is believed to be a group called Often Parties Unlimited. It is a reasonable assumption. It's another Birmingham businessman who leads that, a guy called Jeremy Dale, who has a lot of connections with money in North America. Keith Pelly, who's a part of his deal, is involved with the PGA Golf Tour there, and it would appear to be that it's them. They have an agreement in place for 45.6% of the club in 2 tranches from different parts of the current complicated Chinese ownership structure. They also would buy the ground as part of that, because that was sold off again within the same Far Eastern group, and they've got 2 months in order to conclude negotiations. So I think for the first time in a while we would call it cautious optimism that the club is going to change hands in the course of the next couple of months.
Yeah, but perhaps cautious is still the operative word in that sentence, I think. I mean, are things in limbo on the pitch a little bit as well? Is sort of staying in the Championship fine for most supporters until this ownership situation is resolved, or are expectations still a bit higher than that?
I think it's fine for those at the club. I think supporters are frustrated, but they understand the job that John Eustace has had to do this week, with Sporting Director Craig Gardner wheeling and dealing, bringing in good loan signings and some very cost-effective, cheap signings as well. That's the way they're having to operate. They've been lowering the wage bill year on year under the current ownership who don't want to be investing any more money at this point. Of course, there's also been that two sides of the ground, the lower tiers have been closed for a long time now. They look like they're finally going to be completed and repaired to be ready sometime just into next season. So that will help restore the atmosphere.
Relegation's on and the Prem's unpredictable.
A change of ownership
Leeds losing 6-1
would certainly lead to a change of mood as
Leeds'
well.
heads has just
not
dropped.
being involved in a relegation battle with 5 games
They pulled
to
a
go,
goal back to make it
that's a
2-1,
relative
and then when
success
Liverpool went
over the
3-1
first
up,
half of the season.
Leeds' heads just
over the course of this season, there was
give up.
consistency being a little bit of a problem, and it's the same as Sunderland. Actually, haven't won 3
Well, I think
games in a row.
Sunderland fans need
to
to
hit buffers again, and there have been long
wind our
spells
necks
of
in a
defeats
bit
at
now.
times
I think
as well. No real
playoffs
consistency.
has gone.
In
I mean, we've
medium
got to be
to long
realistic
term.
here.
Yeah, it's been in 3 phases, actually. I think, to be fair, Birmingham City were really good up until the World Cup break. They'd got themselves in a very decent position with an opportunity to maybe kick on and finish in the top half. They then regrouped and came back to play Burnley on Boxing Day, and things fell really foul. I think it was 2 wins in 15. But in the last couple of months, they've improved defensively. The arrival of Kevin Long in January has really helped stabilise them, alongside Mark Roberts at the back. John Ruddy keeping a lot of clean sheets in goal again. It's just a feeling that they've got back moving in the right direction at exactly the right time, just as it looked like they were going to be sucked into another battle. And with a group where they've got a lot of young players who might have found the scrap quite a difficult challenge.
And just finally, then, you've mentioned a couple of individuals there. I was going to ask you about a couple more and whether Sunderland might have to face them tomorrow or not, because they've been out for
I think they'll go down from the Prem. I think it'll be Leicester, Southampton,
of Sunderland, albeit
Nottingham Forest. I think
well,
the 3 there's
Troy
what you think will go down.
Front, who has the experience in the mouth to cause anything.
He has.
Yeah, I think them 3 have gone.
Involved tomorrow, and nor will Dion. Dion has done
Where do
very
you
well in
think
2 loan spells at Birmingham. He's had a back injury. He's recovered a lot quicker than was expected, and he's very high on the list of players they'd like to retain for next year in terms of trying to do a permanent deal with Wolves. He's been a great fit for the club, Dion, who, he's a lot more mature than he was when he was at Sunderland, but he's still only 22. Troy won't be ready just yet. Lukas Djukovic, I'm sure, will still be leading the line, closing on 300 appearances for Birmingham City's Lukas Djukovic, and he's been in very good form. But it's looking at the youngsters. It's 1 or 2 of the younger players that might catch the eye tomorrow, and not least George Hall, who's been playing as a number 10, genuinely 18 years old. He's been making his 30th appearance of the season if he plays tomorrow, and he's the guy that's got Premier League clubs very interested.
It could be a battle of the youngsters tomorrow, Benno.
It could well be. You know what Birmingham's all about. First of all, it'll be physical. We've got to compete. But there'll be 1 or 2 young players on display.
Yeah, Richard Wilford there, the Birmingham City commentator for BBC Radio WM, giving us the lowdown on Birmingham. A reminder, of course, that Newcastle's game at Aston Villa at 12:30 kick-off tomorrow, so we're on air with John and Matthew from 11:30.
Leicester and Southampton have been in the
finishes
Championship for a while.
25 past 2. We'll be heading straight to the Stadium of Light for Sunderland's game at home to Birmingham City tomorrow afternoon. A 3 o'clock kick-off, and then it becomes a normal Saturday afternoon total sport from that point. So we'll have a phone-in after the Sunderland game, and we'll do our non-league roundup at 5:45. But it's already 26 minutes to 8 on this Friday evening.
It's not Friday evening, it's Wednesday. And we are just listening to reruns of Total
So
Sport.
can set up an exciting end to the season. The Black Cats head into tomorrow's game with Birmingham just 4 points off the Championship playoff places.
Nottingham Forest
football-wise, the
haven't won a game in 10
referee
games.
Konstantin Hatzidakis has apologised to Andy Robertson, says he had no intention of making any contact with the Liverpool defender's chin. He was suspended while the FA investigated last Sunday's alleged elbow at Anfield, but the FA has since decided to take no further action. In cricket, day 2 of Durham's first home game of the County Championship season against Worcestershire was disrupted by rain this afternoon. The visitors trailed Durham by 329 runs, with 8 wickets remaining still in their first innings. In rugby union, the Newcastle Falcons captain and scrum half Michael Young will make his 200th appearance for them tomorrow in their trip to Harlequins in the Premiership. The only other change to the starting 15 sees Mark Tamson replacing the suspended Richard Palfreman at tight head prop. In basketball tonight in the BBL Championship, the Newcastle Eagles take on the Caledonia Gladiators. They tip off in about 10 minutes time. In Speedway this evening, the Royal
already just got underway in the BSN Cup. The Berwick Bandits getting their campaign in that particular competition underway against the Glasgow Tigers. And finally, in boxing, the British heavyweight Joe Joyce has weighed in 22 pounds lighter than China's Zhilei Zhang for tomorrow's fight in London. Joyce will defend his WBO interim title at the Copper Box Arena and is the mandatory challenger after that for Alexander Usyk's full WBO world title. Still plenty to come in the last 25 minutes or so of the programme, including you, if you send us
especially Gary Lineker's ears.
It's 0800321 treble.
What are you doing tonight, Jacob? Are you doing much? Champions League game? I'm going to be watching the Man City match, I think.
In both cases, start them with the letters BBC, put your name at the end of them as well. This one is mainly for you, Ando. Andrew says,
even do
Ando, but we mustn't tell Razor
a live
this.
stream watch along, to be honest
you
with you.
get snakes in Ingram Valley in Northumberland. Adders.
Get the watch time hours up on my channel.
You don't think I'd be that cruel, do you?
I'll tell him.
Yes, to be perfectly honest. I think that was probably a rhetorical question, but yeah.
Thanks, Gary.
And thank you, Andrew, for that. And back to the football again. Paula, who's a Sunderland fan, says, I think we have a better chance of winning tomorrow, Benno, than we will against Huddersfield.
And he's right.
Influence, that one's on
he's
Tuesday
absolutely
night.
bang on with that one. Did you hear what he just said there?
In as well in the National tomorrow, but her choice is purely based on the fact that she owns a big black
I'm gonna
greyhound.
Stream the commentary of the Man City.
I'll be going off names tomorrow as well for the Grand National.
The Bayern Munich Man City game on here.
Sort of
get like the watch time hours up.
It's slightly over the border into Scotland, but we'll come on to that later on as well. We haven't got
because it's on BT Sport, isn't it? Not many people got it, so I'll be
in this year's
streaming the audio.
Unfortunately, let's have a chat
on here tonight
to Arthur, who is a Sunderland supporter who joins us on the line. Hello, Arthur.
Hello,
many times when they actually won the league many years ago.
That was John, all right?
Yeah, I'm good, Arthur. Thank you. Yeah, fine.
Have you had a good entry?
Not bad. I could do with a national winner tomorrow, though.
I've never had a look, to tell you the truth. I'll have a look tomorrow.
Oh.
And we'll see there.
There's always
Gary.
Yes, Arthur.
I think we'll beat Birmingham. I think, in my opinion, again, I think we've got a canny chance of getting to the playoffs. Only got to win 2 or 3 off the belt, and we're there. And we're playing canny, you know. We're not playing.
And you're right, we did beat Birmingham.
Just unfortunate again, Hull, and that was a thing off like.
Yeah, we've got an important week coming up, haven't we? You know, tomorrow's game and then Tuesday. If we can take 6 points out of 6, then we'll have a different outlook. Yeah, that's what you'll be looking for. But that's what we need to do.
Oh, that's what we've got to do. I think, you know, really, it's if you look on the season and the latter end when we lost like Evans and the centre forward,
Ross Stewart,
and Ballard and all like so that. Really, when we're getting beat or when we've lost points, I think it's only been like naivety. You know, it's inexperience. That's the word I should say. Really.
Yeah.
You know, you didn't have anybody.
Excuse me.
Like so that, I mean, the young ones, they were thinking. Again, in my opinion, they were thinking that, I'm in a youth game here, and they didn't realise that they were in senior football sort of style. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think this season they've gained valuable experience, haven't they? And I think it'll make them a lot better and stronger for next season.
In terms of team selection tomorrow, Arthur, I mean, Joe Gelhardt, Patrick Roberts, so probably 2 of Sunderland's best players since January.
How do you think we'll do in the next 3 games?
Monday,
well, I think
would you bring them straight back?
It can be very difficult.
I'll bring them straight back.
I think we'll get more draws than anything else. I think might win one. I think.
And I would keep faith with Gelhardt because I just think
West Ham are just a horrible side.
He's in the wrong.
I think we'll win 1, lose 1, draw 1 in the next 3 games because I think that's how the season's been all season. That's why I think we're middle of the table-ish. I think we're win, lose, draw, win, lose, draw.
Just a little to the left.
You know, the odd times where we've won 2 on the bounce, fail to get 3 on the bounce. But
on the right, and
that's what I think will happen.
We'll be all right. We'll not
I hope I'm wrong, but I didn't think we'll get anything at West Brom. I think they've just got a bit too much for us.
Well, I hope you're right, Arthur.
That's what I reckon.
Yeah.
I was sort of right yesterday. We didn't beat Huddersfield.
Enjoy the game tomorrow, Arthur.
And I said 1-0 would lose, but
Cheers,
I certainly had the feeling that we weren't going to win.
Thank you, Arthur. The number to call, I'm not sure how many callers we'll get on now before 8 o'clock, but if you're a Sunderland fan in particular, we will have a phone in after tomorrow's game, and the number is exactly the same if you want to chat to Gary after the game tomorrow. 0800 234 6565. We'll take you through all the weekend's fixtures in just a moment or two, and we'll get Chris Jones on to preview the National and do our
it's a good show, draw West Brom and Watford
will be Preston. I'll take that game before 8 o'clock. But at cricket, rain ended proceedings early on day 2 of Durham's match with Worcestershire in Chesterley Street. The visitors were 96 for 2 in their first innings when the rain came just before 3 o'clock. They were trailing Durham's first innings total of 425 for 9 declared by 329 runs. In that Durham first innings, the batsman Ben Rain scored 71, and his reward was a chat with our cricket commentator Martin Emerson.
Well, Ben, I think 43 overs lost on day 2. Probably you like a calmness back to swing the bat shorter. The statesman of the team.
I've always Radio Newcastle. They'll be even more comfortable at home tomorrow afternoon. Blythe Spartans away to Brighouse League in the women's thing around about.
Harlequins play there as well that are motivated. The game was on.
BBC Sport we're going to bother at Palatinate and in at 7 o'clock.
How you doing?
Hey, hello, Christopher.
Songs from the 80s and 90s.
Moment, I know we normally start with the football, but it's only Grand National weekend once every year, so let's start there. Chris, Benno and I have already admitted on air tonight that we know very little about the Grand National, so I'm going to let you and Andel do this bit. From your perspective,
Grand National's also has been a win. We're just listening to reruns of
it's a great race this year. It really is
total sport.
And I mean, it's one of those ones that once a year, everyone's, when I mentioned it this morning, but everyone's,
as far as I'm aware anyway, but I am told that the best one to back from a local perspective
could pinch it maybe.
I wonder.
A big one, Gary.
So I'm the odds. And Chris, you are £61.
So there we go. That is the total sport. Sorry, seems to be the hardest word. Well, Jacob, I'm going to end the stream here. Cheers for tuning in, and cheers for everybody tuning in. I'm going to be doing a live commentary of Man City against Bayern Munich against Man City. Man City, of course, 3-0 up. And that's not Sunderland related, but it's a big game. And I say, get the watch time I was going. Join us if you want.